we had a different sound system and I had to take it off, so it's a little wonky right now. Okay. So our first presenter tonight is our Councilwoman, Amanda Sandoval. Welcome, Amanda.
Hi, everyone. Sorry I'm not there in person. That had been my plan. Can you hear me, Deb?
Yes.
Okay. I'm out at the Geo detention facility. There was a vigil for Jeanette who got detained today, and there was some altercation between the police department and Denver residents, which caused me to be stuck out in Aurora. So sorry about not being there in person. I know that we're talking about the GEO bond is what I wanted, the GO bond is what I wanted to bring up. So Alessandra's there and can answer any questions because she can see the crowd. So she's my proxy. Thank you, Alessandra, for being there. And I'm going to just talk like everybody knows what a general obligation bond is. It's an opportunity to bring projects into Denver without raising taxes. And it's, for example, we have a new park at Inspiration Point. If you've seen that, we're going to get some artwork at Sloan's Lake because we got new tennis courts at Sloan's Lake. And then the boathouse got $7 million in the last bond for Sloan's Lake. So we've gotten some great projects. But there's a survey open and Alessandra can point you to the survey. She can share it if you want to. And the way you take the survey is you get online, you put where you live, and then you bring up a project. So for example, 38th Avenue has been studied from Sheridan to Fox. And there is a recommendation to bring forward improvements for 38th Avenue. You can drop a pin on 38th Avenue and you could say, we want to make sure 38th Avenue pedestrian improvements are funded. You can look at Sloan's Lake and you could say, I want Sloan's Lake water quality to be improved. You can drop a pin at Berkeley and say, Berkeley Rec Center, it's time that we deserve a state-of-the-art rec center. And so as council president, I will serve, there'll be different committees. And I'll serve on the executive committee. So I'll see some of the final projects. I've appointed my colleagues to different committees such as parks, public safety, streets and bridges. And most importantly, I hope that you tell all your friends and neighbors to come out April 3rd to meet us, to join us at Skinner Middle School, where the mayor will come. I believe it's at 5:15 at Skinner Middle School, April 3rd. And we need to make sure, is it April 3rd, Alessandra? Am I saying that right?
Yes.
Okay, April 3rd. It's a Thursday. Sorry, it's not a Wednesday. And that you all show up. And so here to answer any questions. And once again, I'm so sorry that I'm not there in person. That's totally not like me. But all of a sudden, one of my constituents was in the back of a Aurora police vehicle for lighting sage at a ceremony. And so I felt like it was my responsibility to intercede for her and be able to be here in Aurora with her. So I'll end there. But I'm happy to answer any questions. If you want to just pass them through Alessandra or Deb, they can ask me and I'm happy to answer.
Well, okay, I was getting things together over here. Did you mention everyone who's on the committee to decide what projects get picked?
The connection is going in and out, Councilwoman. It's still spotty, but I know that some names have been sent in, but those committees have not been officially selected yet, as far as I'm aware. Is that right, Councilwoman Sandoval?
Okay. Sounds like you can hear us, but we can't hear you.
I don't know. I'm sitting in, like, I'm
There you
on
go.
Wi-Fi.
Okay, you're back.
Okay,
Um,
yeah.
Well,
So
I was kind of curious how you just, how there's going to be so many projects submitted. How are you going to decide? I mean, I guess since the committees haven't been formed, you guys don't know that.
Okay.
So there's a 6-year capital improvement project list that the mayor is looking at. And that's on, there's a website, Alessandra could share that with you for the capital improvement, it's called a CIP, capital improvement. And other than that, it's this survey according to the mayor's office. But ultimately, all the entire package has to be referred to the ballot by Denver City Council. And that's how I was able to get the boathouse in last time, is I advocated for that project, but I really need you all to take the survey so we can hear from you. So I can advocate and my colleagues can advocate for those important projects that are important to residents of Northwest Denver.
Okay. And, okay. And you saw that in the chat, everybody? The link for taking the survey? It's the first thing in the chat.
Yep, we can see that.
Okay, great. Does any,
Want the easy way, just Google vibrant Denver, it'll jump you to that. And go to city, county, Denver. It's-
Angela, did you want to form? Or you have a question? Great.
What's the participation rate in impact issuances in terms of creating the program? Because in a city of, 3 million people in the Metro Denver area, that's obviously including other towns, like other, towns nearby, but there are approximately 750 people in the city. So what's the participation rate that you're looking for, or that you're aiming to, and what are y'all doing to get, because that's a pretty tight timeline for.
It is.
To get. Like,
Agreed.
it to be May to, February to May, but I mean, we're just taking surveys and stuff and like providing pins and whatnot, and that seems like not everything's gonna be realistic, right? And, I'm not a city planner, I have no idea, I want to see things, I have no idea if they're feasible. So,
Yeah.
and they have from May to July to December. I just want to know what,
Yeah.
because it seems like participation from a few people might be.
Yeah.
Aren't really that awesome.
All the more reason to hop on the survey. But anyway,
Deb, you'll have
she's
to,
asking,
yeah, you'll have to
she's
repeat
asking
it.
what the participation, the preferred participation rate would be for this particular bond as compared to, or for the other bonds in the past.
So Angela, do you mean participation rate on the survey, or do you mean participation rate when it actually goes to the ballot that everyone in Denver would have to vote on in November?
Well, I think is that when it goes to the ballot, the capital plan or the bond is already set in terms of what the money's going to be spent on. And so it would be on the survey, but like, I just want to know what it has been in the past, and like, how are we looking to make that more robust and ensure that communities who aren't necessarily like typically represented are.
Okay.
So participation rate of the past and how we're trying to amp up those numbers so everyone gets represented currently and in the future is the question.
So it's a different mayor, so I can't compare because the mayor is running the survey. So we're on separate branches of government. So I don't know how many people have taken the survey. I don't know how long they're going to keep the survey on. I don't have any of those answers. We have to ask the mayor in April. What I do know is for me, as your council representative, when I spoke at the announcement of this, I said that we have to have it through the lens of equity. And so in Northwest Denver, west of the Platte River, we have historically been underfunded. Historically, if you look at everything west of the Platte River, which is the majority of Denver, but Wash Park has like a newer facility. Wash Park has tons of facilities. Wash Park has lots of amenities. City Park has a new golf course. City Park has tons of amenities. And so it's our job, it's my job as your representative to advocate for west of the Platte River, where we have historically been underserved. Scheitler Rec Center is the sixth most used rec center in the city and county of Denver, and it doesn't even have a full-size basketball court. So when my son was 10 years old, he could no longer participate on the basketball team at Scheitler Rec Center. We were moved out to Central Park Rec Center, which is way across town in Central Park. So it's time for us to have a full-size basketball court at one of the biggest rec centers that we have in our region, which is Berkeley, which is hardly an amenity. So I can answer that. And as for the participation rate in November, it's not a big turnout because it's not a governor's race and it's not a presidential race. But in Northwest Denver, we have one of the highest voting percentages in the city. And we actually really do turn out, especially when it comes for bonds, because they're capital improvement and projects that we all can participate in and use, like for example, Sloan's Lake, the new tennis court, the walking paths at Rocky Mountain Park, the new playground at Inspiration Point. So participation rate for me, that's why Alessandra's there. That's why she's gonna go flyer like lots of coffee shops. If you all want flyers, we're happy to drop them off, because the only way to really make an impact is make sure that you all tell all your neighbors about the meeting that you are in and be ambassadors of the information.
Indeed.
Amanda, this is Tom Brunn,
Hi,
and
Tom.
I didn't hear earlier because of the audio, but the boathouse renovation and the north tennis courts, that was, the funding for that is under the previous bond?
The other tennis courts off of 26, Tom, are in the 2017 bond, and the boathouse is in the 2021 RISE bond. And I'm hoping to get updates. Alessandra, do you remember the update Gina got for the boathouse? She shared it with us in preparation for this meeting, but I can't remember what they said. I think community process like Q2 of this year.
Pulling it up now. For community process. I can pull that up in a moment. Is that okay?
Yeah, sure.
I'll find it.
And then will you update Tom?
Yes.
And then additionally, Amanda,
Yes, sir.
the gun club, is there funding for what their Parks and Rec is moving their offices there? So when that's done, then there'll be space at the boathouse to do the renovations there. Is that correct?
Great question. So the total amount of funding I was able to secure in the RISE bond, 2021 bond, was 14 million. 7 million was going to a new Northwest Denver Park facility. And then 7 of that is going specifically towards the boathouse renovation. I think in the capital improvement project list is the renovation for the old gun club, but that is not in a bond project, Tom. If you want it to be, you could use the survey as another example and drop a pin in that location, because they have done the historic assessment of that when it was done at the same time that the boathouse was, the historic assessment was done, to see like the bones and look at the building forms and what's there and what would need to be renovated. So they do have that information, but ultimately in Northwest Denver, all of the equipment at Berkeley Park, Sloan's Lake, instead of it being sprawled all over, we'll have a new maintenance facilities for our parks people in Northwest region, in the Northwest region. Does that answer, Tom?
Yep, thank you very much.
And
Yeah.
then Councilwoman Sandoval, I did find
Yes.
that timeline. 2025, start the community process, 2026, Q3-ish construction, 2027, hopefully complete.
Perfect. Thank you so much for having that.
Yeah.
Hi. Okay, somebody wants to know, is the 23rd Avenue Bridge going to be funded with this bond, or is that somewhere else that's going to be funded?
That's a CDOT, Colorado Department of
source.
Transportation project. That bridge is owned by the Colorado Department of Transportation. So I don't have the answers for that because we don't have oversight on that bridge. That's a CDOT project.
Thank you. Angela?
It appears that the money is primarily for renovation or new projects. What about old projects like maintenance of the lake? Say, removing the sludge. That would be a maintenance thing, or reseeding the park. Is that a maintenance thing? It's not included?
Okay. Did
So
you hear that? If
yep.
you did, oh,
Yep.
oh,
I
you
heard
did hear that.
Yep.
Great.
So the reseeding of the park, that's maintenance, so that does not qualify. So that's correct. That's under our yearly budget for parks and recreation. The dredging of a lake, the steps needed to get to the dredging of the lake, there has to be these big things called forebays that were put underneath 17th, where the water comes down from the gulch from Edgewater into the lake, which is causing a lot of the sediment. Those type of remediations are capital because they're concrete. So it's brick and mortar, if you think of brick and mortar. So a lot of the necessary infrastructure, for lack of a better word, to ensure that when the lake does get dredged, can be and part of those projects are on the capital improvement project list currently right now. And the mayor knows that those are some of my priorities. They're these terms that I don't know enough about because I'm not a water quality specialist, but they're called forebays. And what they do is they filter the water that would come in off of 17th and Sheridan, and it would collect the sediment and drop to the bottom of those, and then be able to the water would come in fresh. And then we also have to shore up the shoreline to ensure that there's no erosion coming into the lake as well. So those are capital investments because it would be brick and mortar. Sorry for a long answer to what seems to be an easy question.
That's a good answer.
See that such removal is going to be something that goes on every 10 or 15 years. Right now, the lake is at 3.5 foot depth, and originally it was at 10 feet. When you do all this brick and mortar stuff, okay, you're still going to be getting in sediment, and there's still going to be sludge removal needed periodically. Why can't we do the sludge removal under this geo bond without doing the brick and mortar?
So you're asking the wrong person because I don't work for Parks and Rec. I'm your city councilwoman, and I am not a subject matter expert when it comes to these type of questions. I'm the one who runs the policy, and I'm the one who makes sure that votes on the legislation. And so this is what has been explained to me by our Department of Finance, and to look at that. And so we would have to get a special meeting for, and I know Kurt is on here, the Sloan's Lake Citizen Group, the Sloan's Lake Foundation has done lots of research on there, and there's a whole report out. But I am not the subject matter expert to be able to give a very thorough answer that you deserve for this specific question.
Thank you.
And Kurt's going to be giving a talk on these type of things. There's going to be Q&A, but I would say right now that that's what the forebays are for. So, right. I mean, for this whole sediment issue. Yes.
Just from a financial perspective, what are the interest, like what's the coupon rate going to be on the bond? And what's the impact on, I know that they're not gonna raise it, like it's no impact on taxes. But given that the current state of the economy and the way in which, like, you know, I mean, let's all just be honest about where we're in the world at the moment. I'm just interested in what the, you know, if you go into a recession and interest rates rise again, is this the best time to actually be issuing a bond again? If our coupon rates on those bonds is gonna be higher, thus requiring more from our property taxes?
So we have a bonding capacity of up to $980 million. And from what I understand from the mayor's office, this would be a $800 million bond. So we have the capacity to do it. And when we go, after we refer it to the ballot, we set the bond rate and then we sell it to the market and then they buy the bonds and then we pay off the interest on these bonds. And so right now in a market that we're headed into, this is actually a prime time to do geo bonds because they're steady. And so we're selling the bonds for a 6-year because the mayor wants to set this bond. Usually previous bonds are usually every 10 years. And what we've heard from community is 10 years is too far. You can't even remember from 2017 what's happening with all of the bonds. And now we're here at another bonding capacity. So what the mayor wants to do is set a 6-year bonding and they're steady. And so when you buy governmental obligation bonds, it's actually a really good investment and you just pay them off, you know, when they mature. So it's 6 years out and it actually creates, it's a really good financial investment. And so Denver has a really good bond rating. We have a AAA bond rating, which means our bonding, when we go to issue the bonds out into the market, because we have such good bond rating and good bond capacity, that they are usually premium bonds, which are awesome. And the market really wants right now. So if it was not a good time to be doing this, we would have stopped this. And so I've asked all of those same questions and I've done my own research. And that is the answer. Is another time we did a bond outside this 10 years process was when the economy was really struggling because of COVID. It puts jobs, it creates jobs, and it creates a whole economy within itself. So these projects that we would approve in November, you all, that we vote on, actually stimulate the economy in Denver. Hope that answers your question thoroughly enough.
Anybody else? Anybody online? Have any questions for Councilwoman Sandoval?
And I'm happy to stay on. I want to hear what Kirk has to say, so I'll pass it. I've taken up a lot of time. But I'll still be on.
Okay, sounds good.
Thank you, Deb.
Thank you very much. Hope you can come see us sometime. Okay. So let's see. Do we have a CRO here? I mean, yeah.
Is Kaylin online?
Is Kaylin there?
Kaylin's
Wow.
not here, but I'm here. I'm Officer Julie Reyes. I work with her in District 1.
Oh, hi. Okay. Great.
ready?
Did you want to? You bet.
All right, so just to introduce myself, I'm Officer Julie Reyes. I work in District 1. I'm on day shift out there in the Sloan's Lake area, actually. I'm just here. I kind of help out the CROs when I can or when they need me. So here I am. It's nice to meet you all. You want to get started with the Sloan's Lake statistics or?
Sure.
All right. So we'll go ahead and write down to crimes against property. So this is just last month to current. So we'll start here with arson. You can see in January, we didn't have any incidents there. And we had we had one incident back in February. Down to burglary, went from 2 to 6 incidents of burglary in that area. A pretty good difference from criminal mischief and damaged property from 12 down to 6. Fraud 3-2, larceny stayed the same at 4-4. Theft for motor vehicle went from 12 incidents down to 6, and then auto theft went from 5 to 8. So overall, we're down, looks like 13.2% there. Any questions on that I can answer? Anything in depth I won't be able to answer. You can ask our commander at tomorrow's CAG meeting if you're interested.
Okay. We do have a question.
There's been a number of teenagers and always they get charged. They get charged. Why that happens?
Did you hear that question?
No, I couldn't. I'm sorry.
Okay, she's wondering, she says there's been a lot of car thefts and they've been by teenagers and she's wondering why they're not getting charged. They're just getting charged for trespassing, but not for actually stealing the car.
I mean, that's all done more at the court level. I can't speak on behalf of the courts and why certain things happen at that point. But I mean, as far as the motor vehicle theft itself, that's really what I can speak on. Like I said, whatever happens in the courts is unfortunately out of my hands.
It gets reported though as a theft for the police report for data capture purposes.
Did you hear that?
No, everything's far away.
She's asking, why don't we take this speaker over? There you go.
I was just asking if if there's a theft, if that gets reported as a theft for data collection purposes through DPS, and then if in the courts they decide to bring a lesser charge, you know, because it's a teenager, they're probably being stupid, whatever. We were all stupid teenagers, but and so they may get charged differently, but it gets captured as a theft, right? I just want to make sure I understand.
Generally speaking, unless Sarge has anything different to say, generally we go for the higher charge and then it gets brought down in court to something lesser if need be.
So yeah, the report that we do as far as the police report goes, that will be for the statistics as an auto theft. Again, like Julie was saying, the court system is different. Sometimes I know a lot of issues we've been having with auto thefts is if they can't prove that the person knew the vehicle was stolen. So if it's recovered with the keys, let's say it was a puffer or something somebody stole with the keys, the district attorney's office have a hard time prosecuting because the criminal has the affirmative defense that they didn't know the car was stolen. They got it from a friend. So the only thing they can charge them with is the trespassing. So I think that's where that comes about. But as far as reporting statistics, the crime that occurred, the auto theft, will be marked as an auto theft on the statistics.
Thank you.
Thank you. Continue on, please.
Okay, we going right to crimes against property for Colfax, or did you guys want to know more about the other?
Let's go to Colfax.
Okay, so again, West Colfax stats last month to current. Go right down to crimes against property, which is most of the stuff we respond to here. Again, from arson, we went from 2 incidents of arson to 0. Burglary, 9 incidents to 8, just 1 decrease. Counterfeit and forgery went from 0 to 1. Crimis and damaged property, 13 incidents in January down to 9 in February. No incidents of embezzlement or extortion. From fraud, went from 3 incidents to 1. Larceny, 19 to 13. Theft from motor vehicle, 13 down to 10. Motor vehicle theft, 19 to 10. And robbery stayed the same at 2 to 2. So overall, down 32.5% there in crimes against property in that area.
Okay,
Questions on that area?
I don't see any. Is there any in chat? Let's see. Trouble seeing my chat right now.
This, what's on the screen now is just a graphic of what was in the statistic. It shows where these.
And that's last, yeah.
Actually, it's all it's right up there, federal. Line 26 at that bus station where bus stop was along.
Okay. Does anybody have any other questions? Tom, did you have a question about on 26 and Zuni, there was a shooting, a fatal shooting.
I scanned it and sent it to you, but there was a police report that came out. There was a shooting and a murder at where Spear and Sunai and 29th all come together. And the person, the assailant, fled the scene and came down to our neighborhood and was stopped by the police at the gas station, convenience store at 26th and Federal. He got out of his car and jumped the fence into one of our members, Bill Martinez's backyard. And he was a young, agile young man. Then he jumped the fence going south and was cornered and caught in a trash enclosure for a multi-unit in the middle of the block between 19th and 20th. So they captured the guy who did the murder. So, but it was, as Gil said, it was kind of exciting with all the police cars in the world on his block.
No, and one of the benefits, I actually went down there on that because we kind of put all hands on deck for that one. One of the benefits of working day shift and working with a larger jurisdiction, we're the biggest one in the state, is within probably 30 seconds of the end of that chase over there off at 20th, there were about 15 officers in the area. About 10 minutes later, the whole SWAT team was there. So it was really a good group effort by the whole department because we had so many assets available to us that day. So, I mean, as bad of a situation as it was, it couldn't happen on a better day because we were able to get the bad guy in custody. So that's kind of a good team effort. So thanks for recognizing that.
So like for our stats purposes, that maybe.
Right, that would be in the Jefferson Park, the murder would be, but the larceny or whatever that was would be reported on. That would be, Sloan's like West Colfax starts at like 17th and south. And that is report of what happened.
Is on next door of all things that DVD is giving away trackers to put in your car in case they get stolen. Is that something that's going to be widely given out in Denver?
So I can speak to that one because that's something that came across my desk today. I don't think Julie's aware of this one because we didn't warn her about it. So it's a new Denver track program that we're starting. There was a press release today, and the Eventbrite, which is kind of like a sign up genius, went out also today. You have to sign up for a time slot, and the volunteers will be at the police stations Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday at all the district stations. And at your appointed time, you come in, they give you a tracking device. They'll take you out to your car, put it somewhere in your car and pair it with your phone so that should your vehicle get stolen, we can track it and we have the capabilities to track it. So I think the city bought 450 of those. So those are all going to be available to you. I don't have the press release, but I think the news media has covered it, and Denver Police has put it out on all their social media pages. So just be aware of that and just sign up on the Eventbrite for an appointment, and you can come grab one of those trackers.
Wonderful. I'll be there. Anybody else? Well, thank you all for joining us tonight, and thanks for all your information. There's a CAG meeting coming up. Well, wait a minute, that's in this already happened.
No.
That's
Oh, it's
tomorrow.
tomorrow. Okay.
Yep, tomorrow at 6 p.m. at District Station. So if any
Right, thank you.
questions,
Long day.
Commander can answer those.
Thanks again. Let's see, should we go to Kurt? Are you ready to present? Yippee. And you're going to present from your computer? Okay. Okay, I brought visuals too, so. And then,
Sharing on the Zoom call, if you want to open the Zoom call, it's okay.
uh,
Just open the Zoom window.
okay. Oh, I'm
Or you
sorry,
share.
I'm not understanding. Yeah, I
Yeah,
did share
we
with,
can see
I
it.
did make you a
Yep.
co-host where you could share it.
Yeah,
You can
we
open
can
the
see
Zoom
it.
window instead of the PowerPoint. And
That's what you, okay.
that's,
Okay, so yeah.
and the tab Kurt Weaver screen up there.
Yeah, I made you a co-host, so you should be able to share.
Yeah, so you can just click on the Kurt Weaver screen.
Oh, I need
tab
to
right there. Nope,
what?
just tap on that screen.
Oh, that one,
There you go.
thanks. I've never had to do that.
All right. Thanks, I appreciate
Yeah,
it.
sure.
Hi, everybody. My name is Kurt Weaver. I work with the Sloan Lake Park Foundation. We have been around, slide just so you know, we've been around since 2016, unofficially since 2019 as an actual official organization. We work closely with the Sloan Lake Citizens Group and deeply appreciate all the things that you all do. So thank you very much for all of the efforts that you put into to the community in general. We really work only within the park limits and within the lake. So we try to be what is the voice and advocacy for the lake specifically. Lately, it has needed a little bit more voice than it needed in the past. Most of you might be very familiar with the issues, but in case you're not, this is what we look like today. So the challenges of the lake have been, they're varied and they're ancient, but really ever since 1861, when Farmer Sloan popped the aquifer, the lake has had issues. So one of the biggest issues we have with the lake is that it was literally a filled-in farm field. And so it was never contoured into an actual lake. That's what a lot of those issues end up as. It was never contoured into a human-made lake. It was really just a filled-in farm field. It was also two separate lakes, Cooper's Lake and Sloan's Lake, that ended up being formed together. So all kinds of just structural challenges the lake had on its own. Then 150 years of development from Sloan's Lake West and all that runoff flowing right into the lake has brought us to where we are today. So the lake is down to about 3.3 feet on average in depth. There's parts of the lake that are a little bit deeper than that, so that is the average depth. But if you walked out from where the ditch is on the southwest side of the lake, basically where the gun club is, you could walk out about 100 yards into the lake and never go past your ankles. So there are parts of the lake that are really having a problem. What they like to say is in Mountain West communities, and especially in high places like Denver, you really need 5 feet of depth or more in order to have healthy water that's not moving. So if it's a lake or a pond, you need more than 5 feet of depth to have healthy water. We don't have that in Sloan's Lake, and with it being such a large 177-acre lake, it's a very large lake, and of course we need a lot of help as it goes. 160 more years of development, basically all the western development from where the lake is kind of ran downstream into those rivers, into the storm drains, and back into the lake. There's currently 23 unfiltered storm drains and then 2 ditches that run into the lake. There's 25 unfiltered sources of water that flow into the lake with all that sediment in it. And that basically surrounds the entire lake. So that's what we have right now, continuing to make the problem worse every day. It has slowed down a lot because EPA water quality laws and implementations over the years have gotten things better. The way that we reroute our storm drains have gotten better, but there still is sediment that runs into that lake, so it's still getting worse every day, just not as bad as it was in previous decades. And then, of course, those of you who live around the lake and saw fish kills happen the last couple of years here. Unfortunately, they still stock fish in that lake the last couple of years. We've been promised it's not going to happen this year, so we're very hopeful they're not going to stock fish in the lake. They're just going to die. But it's the reality of June, July, August, September, summer heat, no oxygen in the lake, ends up in a fish kill. You probably saw this past summer too as well. There's hoses just spraying cold water into the lake from around it. It's one of the remediations that the team does over there. All the credit in the world to the Parks and Rec department. They do an amazing job of keeping this lake as nice as it is. Because if you walk around it right now, it actually looks pretty nice. But just under the surface, we're having all kinds of challenges. And of course, then one of the biggest things that we want to point out this year, with the lake being closed, technically July and August, the Dragon Boat Festival had to move its dates because of all the problems we're having with Blue Lake. And that's a problem in that largest Asian American festival west of the Mississippi, and as well as it's a massive economic driver for the community. So we're really excited to keep them here, hopefully, but they had to already move their date for this summer.
And they bring about 100,000 people for the Dragon Boat today.
Yeah, massive opportunity for the community. We don't want to lose that. And right now, they've already had to reroute where they paddle on the lake because their oars hit the bottom of the lake as they're paddling. So it's, again, we got to get this fixed to then be able to keep these amazing things in our community. Park and Rec Department and the City of Denver have come together for some remediation items. And so they have done a bunch of research on the lake to see what's in there. For those of you who have been in the community for a long time, we actually mined lead out of the lake in the 1980s. So they had sporting clay shot over the lake for almost 70 years. They mined lead out of the lake in the 1980s. There was that much lead in the lake. So there is stuff at the bottom we know there's problems with. We don't exactly know what all is in there, but they're doing more testing on it. But Parks and Rec published what is going to be these 8 different categories of remediation that needs to happen around the lake. It's not just dredging. Dredging is what needs to happen to make it healthy. But of course, then you can't then let it fill back in over time. I think somebody mentioned it's just going to fill back in. We don't want that to be the case. So shoreline, plants, animals, all the different remediations they have. And I have this in a larger PDF in case people have not yet seen this document, but I'll share this. Deb, I'll give this to you to put in the files. But this is all the different issues they have. The last one being sediment removal. Uh-oh. Oh, there we go. Just got too warm. It's probably my hot air. So sediment removal is on their list. It's just one of the 8 things. I'll stand further away. So this is where Parks and Rec, of course, as money comes into a budget, they're going to spend money on fixing things like the lake. Normal cutting of grass is in the normal budget. Normal things of planting flowers, those sorts of things end up in the normal budget. Things like this are all extra budgets. They're all outside of that. So Councilwoman Sandoval has been great about getting some of those dollars, broken free to help things like the boathouse and the gun club. But these are remediations that the Parks and Rec Department will try to plan for over time. There is some money extra in the budget this year for some of these remediations. One of those is the entire city of Denver and actually the entire region wants to start planting native grasses and plants within 20 feet of any waterway. It's one of those things, it's a good, healthy thing to do. It works as a filtration part to then before the water runs into the lakes or the rivers. So that's one of those things they want to do is more native plants and more native grasses. But our Kentucky bluegrass we have almost everywhere right now. But this is a bunch of different stuff they're going to be doing. The final one here is sediment removal. And that is really the permanent fix that there is for the lake. In the capital improvement plan, we were lucky to have 2 big items that got added in here. I'm going to give credit to Councilwoman Sandoval to being the reason this got in there. But this is the capital improvement plan that was just published for 2025 to 2030 for Denver. In that are 2 items. The top one is the Sloan's Lake aquatic and environmental health improvements. I know that sounds very innocuous, but it's basically everything else not dredging. So all those other remediations could fit into that. So again, shoreline, just the way the shorelines are shaped, the filtration of those storm drains going into the lake and all that kind of stuff, but fits into that. and then sediment removal for 80 million. So the top one is $40 million for everything else. Then the sediment removal is 80 million. That is not enough to get the entire project done, but it is a huge amount of investment and a big step along the way. We anticipate the entire project to cost about $250 million over the entire scope of what needs to get done. It is 400,000 cubic yards, about 77,000 dump trucks. It has to come out of that lake. So when you think about that as a dump truck, 77,000 full dump trucks have to come out of that lake to get back to the healthy depth that it was when it was originally the deficit was back in the old days. That does not include potentially even going further down and then making even a deeper lake in case the Mile High Flood District or others want to make it a floodplain more than it currently is today. But that just gets us back to basically what is healthy depth and what would be healthy for a long time to come. I want to show this slide because this is the watershed, knowing what the watershed is from the Mile High Flood District maps they have on their website. This is Sloan's Lake watershed. So Sloan's Lake is the striped area there. The watershed actually does run all the way over to almost 25 and flows back towards Sloan's Lake. And actually, for those of you who didn't know, there used to be a canal that ran from Sloan's Lake up 17, almost all the way up to the Platte River. They used to run boats up and down there for dinner cruises, but I don't know if we'll ever get back to that. But this is what the watershed looks like right now. The watershed does include a whole bunch of communities heading west into Jeffco, as well as Edgewater, Wheat Ridge, and Lakewood. But this is what we look like right now as to what they believe the watershed is around where the water flows into Sloan's Lake. And again, the ditch on the south side there and the ditch on the north side are the two biggest areas that puts water into the lake. But the aquifer that Farmer Sloan popped as he was drilling for water back in 1861 is still flowing. They don't know exactly how much comparatively to the other inlets that they have, but the water is still flowing according to our studies. They believe, so as the blue line comes down at an angle, it's about halfway down that line. If they were to guess right now, they know exactly where it is. I don't have a pin map, but the other cool thing, if you ever want to go out on Sundays over the summer, Denver Fire does their dive training in Sloan's Lake. They've got the old fashioned, like the big helmets with the hose come out of the top. So they do their dive training. If you ever want to watch something really cool, Denver Fire's out there training every Sunday during the summer. All right, so what we're up to and what we're trying to get done. The Denver Vibrant Bond is a big deal, right? So we want to make sure that we get at least the $80 million for sediment removal in the Vibrant Bond. Hint, Councilwoman Sandoval. So what part of what we're going to be doing is encouraging Councilwoman Sandoval, all the other council folks to get this into the bond as a big step towards starting the process. $80 million, again, doesn't get us the whole way, but it gets us a very far way down the road. The working group that we put together is that watershed. So everybody has responsibility here. Lakewood, Wheat Ridge, Edgewater are a big contributor to what happened with this lake. We've already met with those communities and they're part of the Sloan's Lake Watershed Alliance that we put together. But it's basically all of those communities and all the municipalities heading that west way, including Denver Parks Rec and others. So they all kind of understand there's responsibility here. They signed on to the Watershed Alliance. In addition to that, we need the people who actually do the work around this area with water and with parks and with infrastructure. That's Department of Infrastructure and Transportation, DOTI, Mile High Flood District, the watershed folks who do the water conservation boards, and all those kinds of organizations. We've gathered them into the room as well. So want to have their voices. Then, of course, every elected official of every level, up to and including our 2 senators for Colorado, our federal representatives, our state representatives and senators, the governor, the mayor, and then all of our elected representatives at council level and the municipalities that are around us. All those folks have been invited into the council, into the Watershed Alliance as well. We want to have every voice that could possibly have a part of a decision on fixing the lake in that group. We're meeting once every 2 months right now to give updates and to see where we are on things. But the Watershed Alliance right now is basically the motivational group to get everybody bought into whatever the solution looks like. And that solution will be probably something along the lines of, and I'm sorry if those words are pretty small, but short term, it's about research and we're going to get the project mapped out as to what things look like. So the initial step that we have is to understand the project, what the cost is going to be, what the scope is. That 77,000 dump truck came out of a research that we did to find out how much actually has to come out of the lake. Vibrant Bond is our first step. So for the next 2 months, basically, we are all in on motivating everybody who has a decision in this at any level to then make sure that this money is in that Vibrant Bond for Denver. So that's a huge amount of it. One of the great things we have and we've learned, almost every bond that gets sold to the community, and we also vote on this, gets sold through a Parks Direct project leading the way. We all tend to vote on parks, so they almost always campaign with a parks project leading the way. We currently have what discovered so far as the largest ask for a Parks Direct project with the sediment removal for Sloan's Lake. The northwest side, the west side have always been a little bit underserved as to parks money spending. And so it's our time, it's our turn. And so we believe that we could be that project that will lead the bond.
And so we're really excited for this project. That's step number one. Then we get into some of the rest of it, research and understanding what is the feedback.
Somebody's off mute, baby. There we go. So then we have to keep the planning going to understand the research as to where the rest of the money would come from. Of course, it's not just Denver and our money that's going to pay for this project. Upriver folks will get involved too. So what that means is either a special taxation district, including those communities, Lakewood, Wheat Ridge, and Edgewater, and Jeffco, or what ends up being a authority. So our airports are governed under all the communities that are around those airports come together to be on an authority board that then governs that airport. Same kind of idea here. So a project of this size takes all those people signing on. So what that looks like is what the Watershed Alliance will figure out over time. How do we actually bring everybody together? They put their own pot of money in the pot, then pay for the entire project. So that's really where we are in the short term and mid-term. This eventually would be the Denver Vibrant Bond we voted on this fall. So this fall will be the Denver Vibrant Bond. We would hope by the next year's fall, we would have what the rest of the money would be put together on the ballots in each of those communities. So Lakewood has to vote on their community, Wheat Ridge has to vote on their community. We want to have that figured out and campaigns running to they're voting on their money to put in the pot as well. And then of course, as we go along, our remit is to inform, educate, motivate, and gather feedback. So that's really what we are as a nonprofit organization. We want to make sure that we're continually informing. We do lake walks for education purposes, give you the truth on Roger the Elephant, where he's at, and all those things. So we give you the history on the lake as well as the current issues. So we want to keep that up as we go along to make sure that the community knows about it, because again, you're the ones who have to vote on what happens here. And of course, give feedback. So do we want a beach again? Do we want to have something where the boathouse actually opens up those side doors again and we serve ice cream out in there? For those of you who remember, that used to happen. Like what those kind of things we want to have feedback as to, as you remediate the lake, what do we want brought back to? Will there be boats back on the lake or not? That's going to be community involvement that makes that decision. And then of course, ongoing long-term, for anybody who's been part of a lake organization, we always look to Tahoe has a great one. It's called Keep Tahoe Blue. They do a really great job. After they remediated it and got it fixed, it's a maintenance organization. How do we make sure this doesn't happen again? How do we make sure the lake is taken care of and has a voice within government and the community and onward? All right. That was a lot of information on the fire hose. I apologize about that, but I'm happy to hit questions.
Really quick, if anyone has questions, can you raise your hand so I can bring the speaker over to you so that people online can hear instead of repeating?
How long will it take to do the dredging, and how much would just the dredging cost?
They estimate the dredging would be about $130 million to get the entire project completed all the way back down. 80 million is enough to get us a good part along the way. So as you can imagine dredging, you could dredge 10% of it really deep. You could dredge the entire thing a little bit. So there's all different ways to go about the project. That's where I'm going to defer to the engineers to what they suggest. There is even suggestions that you can take part of the, so if you dredge some of the material out, you can actually fill in other part of the lake. We don't want that to happen. We want the lake to stay where it is and all the stuff to be dredged out. So we're shooting for the stars on this. We want the footprint of the lake to be the same, and we want all the material taken out. That's our goal. We anticipate that would be anywhere between $130 million to $160 million. The timing on that, if you, again, they can do it a couple different ways. Drain the entire lake and dredge the entire thing out, basically with big bulldozers, or you section off 10% of the lake, drain that part, dredge that part, go to the next 10%. That way the lake stays open for our use as they dredge it. That's where, again, engineers, size of project, timing it would take. It's longer to do that. It would probably take 2 summers and 2 seasons to do that. If they just drain it and dredge it, they believe it would be over 1 calendar year. It should not have to take place. So if we We should not have to dredge it again. Councilwoman Sandoval mentioned 4 bays. 4 bays are basically, so if you think about 2 cups of water, water flows into the first cup, all the sediment settles down to the bottom, then it flows into the second cup. The first cup can be dredged out constantly. So we basically have a small pond that all the water flows into. You dredge that out once a year. That way you don't have to dredge out the big lake. And so if we do this right, we don't have to dredge it again. We have to just dredge out these small, basically 4 bays every year as we do it annually. No, so it would also, part of the remediation is rerouting or filtering those 23 storm drains. That's part of the remediation that was in that $270 million. So that way we don't have to do those things, but we do need a couple more 4 bays than we currently have. There's really only one operational 4 bay. It's where the Pelican Head statue is, where if you can spin the thing and the water comes out, for those of you on the north side by the jetty, that's a 4 bay in there, and they just fixed it to then start to be able to drain that one out too. They couldn't bring trucks in there. That's all the work they did last year. They couldn't bring trucks in because the land was too soft. They put in all the concrete, so now trucks can come in to now dredge that out.
I'm just curious if it would drain the whole lake. What are they gonna do with all the inflow?
Great question. So there's a couple different ways for that. One of them is understanding how much actually comes in. A second one is water rights. So who has water rights to it? It depends on then when the water comes in, where it then goes. If it needs to go through, and right now Sloan's Lake drains in South Platte. So right now all of our water comes through into South Platte. So some of it will be understanding water rights, who needs to get it from that inflow and where that would be rerouted. But basically it's a very small stream that they just drilled down the middle, that it flows right through the middle and all the way back out to South Platte. That's the simple answer. There's more complication. I'm sure engineers would give you a much more complicated answer, but the inflow area that they have right now would just be all rerouted into one simple stream down the middle until then we get it remediated.
Question online.
Yes.
How did they get the water back in? I'm just reading someone else's question. I'm not.
Yeah, so they basically put up what is small dams. And so from the inflow areas, all those would be small dams that then get rerouted to one small stream down the middle and out into the South Platte, while they then basically bulldoze out all the sediment. So that's the very simple answer from somebody who's not an engineer. There's probably much more complicated ways to do that, but it's basically just rerouting what those are into small streams that flow through the middle as they then remediate it all out.
Basically, the project team, and you mentioned all the different entities who are involved in this. Reynolds was not one of them. Would you please add that we'd like to have a voice?
You're in, definitely.
Neighbors come.
Definitely. You're in.
So does the nonprofit have 501(c)(3) status? And
Yes.
have you guys applied for, like, what other fundraising are y'all doing? Besides, like, I know you have events and stuff, but has there been any applications for grants or to large foundations that are doing a lot of environmental work where that's a lot of the focus now?
Yes, we've gotten some small grants to then get we do our fundraising. We jam it on the jetty and the Sloan's Lake wide open, some other fundraisers we do. We also do some private fundraising for one-on-one, but then we have applied for grants. The larger grants, we're going to wait to go after until a lot of them would need to see a project first. Exactly, that's going to be before they go after the grant. One of those would be like Colorado Water Board. They've got a lot of grant applications open all the time. That's one we go after, but they need a much more crafted plan. What I found is that this happens in 30, 60, 90. If you get the project plan up to 30% of it planned and 30% along the way and 30% knowledge what it would look like, that's one step we can start to apply for some grants, the early money grants. Then that gives you money to go to the 60% of planning, which then you apply for more grants. And then at 90% or 100%, that's when you get the final money. One of those places is the EPA and the WIFIA loans. So EPA gives big loans to big projects, but you have to pay that back. And so there are lots of loans out there we could go after to get these kind of projects done, including private hedge funds actually do this stuff and pay for it. And then of course, charge you interest on the money as you come back to it. So there's all different ways to go about getting money to do projects like this, but all of them take repayment. And so repayment means special taxation district or a bond or something else that produces money to repay these things. So again, if we're going to get to hopefully the $250 million to do this, that takes a pretty big investment. Yeah. Woo. Nice. You see. Yes, at the ditch. Yeah. So this is actually an Edgewater, and Edgewater is credit to them. They were first to the table to say, we know we have to do something. Partially what we're going to be doing is remediating that ditch. They have plans for potentially making it a walking trail along what is a re-greened ditch area. So they have all kinds of plans. I'll defer to the mayor over there. They're wonderful, but they're the first ones to raise the hand to say, we know we're part of the problem and we're all in. So they're amazing. I know that this is part of their project they'll be doing too. But this is one of the places a forebay is needed before it flows into the lake. And so that's one of those places that we'd have to look at to get that done. Oh, nice.
Think of that. That's on the north parking. And that.
By the boat ramp? Yeah.
So I think that's interesting concept. I don't. Porta potty going into the lake, not directly.
Yeah. So that wouldn't flow into the lake. But what I will tell you, amazingly, the reason the bathrooms at Sloan's Lake are closed a lot is because they're actually below the sewer system for Denver. So the water, if you think about it, the water flows down out of a toilet underneath that system. It's way down below what is the sewer system, and all sewer systems work off gravity. So what it has to do is it flows into a big tank, and the tank then pumps it up high enough to then flow into the sewer system. And that's a very complicated process. And that pumping system is what actually breaks, not the toilets themselves. It doesn't help that people flush pairs of jeans down there and other things, but that's a smaller issue too. It's just a sewer system below what is the city's sewer system. And that's why it's so complicated. So one of the things I'm sure when Councilwoman Sandoval got that money to remediate the boathouse, one of the things we're going to have to spend some of that money on is fixing that sewer system. It's just, we need bathrooms open in Sloan's Lake that are not porta potties. Yeah. Tom.
That new book that just came out on Manhattan Beach. The first chapter gives a big history of the canal from Federal to the lake and the city of Denver, the steamboat on it, and interesting things that they did at the park.
Yeah. Amazing. And I'd encourage you all to buy that book. It's about the Sloan's Lake Amusement Park, which was called Manhattan Beach, then Luna Park and some other things, but it's an amazing history. And truly, this was the recreational center for Denver for over 50 years. This side of town and this lake was where people went, and the beach was where they spent their time. So I believe that we could have that again. Not that we want more traffic in the community than we already have, but certainly the opportunities at the lake, be it a beach, be it a amphitheater, be it a canal, be it a boat that floats around as dinner cruises, whatever that is, the opportunities are endless for the lake. But health is number one. So our goal, we like to say we want it fishable and swimmable. That's our goals as an organization. And so past that, of course, recreation is up to a community how it uses its parks. And that'll all be our voices when it comes that time. We really want to just make sure the water gets healthy.
And did you say fishing?
Yeah.
Is there a way at less expense to make it healthy and not have to have swimming and fishing? Because I feel like that would be wonderful, but unrealistic, especially in a city off of Sheridan.
Yeah, we're told that it can be realistic. So we want to dream as big as we can, but yeah. Dredging will not in itself make the water healthy. You're right. So there's all that other remediation that goes around it is what would make it healthy enough to then have people in. But technically, most of our water was swimmable and fishable. Now, whether you'd want to swim in there or not is up to you. But one of the things that we found is with the dredging, that's a huge amount of impact on it. And water is really good at cleaning itself with then the proper plants and wildlife that's around that. So water is pretty good at cleaning itself as long as it's deep enough. So the dredging is the number one impact it can have on water quality that we have, so anything that we can do. But we also then have to do all those other things upstream. I mean, we have cattle runoff. So upstream of us is farms that run in there. So that's one of those things like USDA has to be involved to understand what cattle runoff looks like into then the streams and how that gets remediated. So there's all kinds of those things that'll have to go into that solution. But our long-term goal certainly is swimmable and fishable. Usable, yeah. Yeah. I think we will always look to see, I mean, more expensive, amazingly, once you get to a certain number, more expensive and a couple more million is not actually the difference, right? So once you're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars, it is a little bit, you get those fake numbers that just sound too big. So we want to make sure we do it right, but also it can't just be an unending amount of money that costs. So we'd have to have a budget. We have to figure out what the cost is. Testing the sediment and where it can go is one of those things. The cost of dredging is actually only half that cost. The cost of where the sediment goes and storing it is the other half of the cost. It's a huge amount of cost of dredging is where the sediment goes. If it's toxic, lead and otherwise could be in there, then it's way more expensive to take care of it. Putting it under a runway at DIA is one of those places where you can basically put anything under a runway. But if we were to put it in the park of Sloan's Lake to reform some of those areas of the park, that has to be very clean soil. So one of those things is remediation for the soil itself to see where that cost goes. So that's one of those things where we're estimating costs, but we don't know those numbers exactly. All right. Thank you for my fire hose, and I appreciate all this information and letting me speak so long. I'm happy to share, I'll share the presentation with you as well as the other parts of it. And then if you're able to make it to the Vibrant Denver meeting tomorrow night for Councilwoman Torres, April 3rd for Councilwoman Sandoval, or April 8th for the at-large council members, we would really hope you can come and scream at the top of your lungs, we need Sloan's Lake dredged. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for doing the speaker passing around me. Oh, boy. Okay, Alessandra, do you want to go next?
I sure do.
Okay. I need to.
Let me share my screen here.
Hey.
All right, everyone. Hi, my name is Alessandra. I'm an aide for Councilwoman Sandoval, who spoke earlier tonight. So first up, we have Councilwoman Sandoval's monthly office hours. Now, we did already have them for March. However, we're going to have 2 sets in April. We normally have 2, but we're already doing the budget goals and everything for 2026. So this month was a little short. On the first of the month, you can sign up for office hour slots each month, and those are announced in our newsletter. That goes up the first of each month as well. So as was mentioned earlier, the Vibrant Go Bond. So if you're here in person and you would like to RSVP to that meeting on April 3rd, you can scan the QR code. There's also denvergov.org/vibrantbond, and you can RSVP through that site. We do encourage RSVPs. If you're not able to RSVP, no problem. But as Councilwoman Sandoval stated and Kurt, April 3rd, 5:15 to 6:45 at Skinner Middle School, the cafeteria specifically. All right, and then some more Go Bond information. Councilwoman Sandoval went over most of this, but there is a link for those who are online virtually to sign up for the Vibrant newsletter. And also, again, that survey by April 17th. Some events coming up. So Saturday, April 5th, there's the Cesar Chavez March On celebration. That's going to start at 9 a.m. at Regis University with the Catholic Mass. Step off is 10:30 to Cesar Chavez Park. You can get there by 11:45 for a park opening ceremony, music, food, and more. Just a link to apply for a scholarship. So if you know anyone that is living in or coming from affordable housing who demonstrates merit and need and is pursuing an undergraduate degree, please encourage them to apply by Friday, April 14th for a scholarship. We also have a community grant application. You have to meet with a staff member prior to April 19th, and you can schedule that using that link as well. If you have any ideas for a community-led, small-scale, high-impact park improvement project, they are awarding up to $5,000 to neighborhood groups and residents. We have an immigration support toolkit, which is super, super important. As we, just heard recently what Councilwoman Sandoval had to help support community with earlier tonight. But if you'd like to go to denvergov.org/immigrant support, you can find immigration legal resources, resources for food, shelter, rentals, consulate offices, and Know Your Right. There is rental and utility assistance. That there's for rental, utility, and relocation. Funding is not guaranteed, but you can call or text the number on the screen, and those applications are happening now through December 16th or until they run out of funds. Next month is last month for home heating assistance. So if you know anyone that would qualify for the low income energy assistance program, please have them check out that application. It helps with repair and replacement of inoperable heating equipment. Denver's Snow Angels. So recently this program was presented to Denver City Council, and I gotta say, we could do a little bit better. The amount of people volunteering to be snow angels, we could pump it up. I'm confident we can do it. All you have to do is be 18, live in the city and county of Denver, and be able to visit those homes and sidewalk and shovel those sidewalks. So if you know anyone that is able to, please, please, please have them sign up to be a snow angel to help our community. Northwest Denver and specifically Sloan's Lake, we can really, really up those numbers. And I know that we have young people who are able to do this for our neighbors, right? Holiday waste collection. This was presented recently. This is the most recent schedule I have. If it changes, I will let you know. But right now you can put out carts for regular collection on Juneteenth and Veterans Day. Regular collection does not change as far as I know. You will have to one day delay putting out carts on Memorial Day, Independence Day, Labor Day, Thanksgiving, and Christmas. If this changes, I will present it again. Absolutely. This is the most recent schedule we have. And I am sorry that it changes so often. Legislative initiatives. So on February 3rd, City Council voted unanimously to approve updates to Denver's rezoning process, just to make it more transparent and accessible. And if you'd like, this link for the whole slide deck does get sent to all the R&O leaders. So if you'd like a copy of this, you can email me or email your R&O leaders. Each legislative initiative has a hyperlink, so you can see the whole bill if you would like to read more about it. But moving on, February 18th, City Council approved new zoning regulations that limit where new gas stations can be put to align with adopted plans and policies. February 18th, this is a really popular day at City Council because they also voted unanimously to approve an amendment to reorganize and clarify the finance fair election fund. Also on February 18th, they updated Denver's noise ordinance to reflect current best practices for growing community needs. And then, of course, we have our evergreen, always trusty advisory boards. So first up, Dottie, Department of Transportation and Infrastructure. If you have ideas for street lighting, signage, traffic calming measures, potholes, speed bumps, the whole lot, you can attend the second Tuesday of every month at 4 p.m. And just know that in addition to that going to the Dottie Executive Director, our office, Councilwoman Sandoval's office, also meets with our Dottie appointee every month to go over what is happening at the Dottie Advisory Board. And we also exchange information with Alan Cowgill. I know most of you also know him. So just know that's not a sounding board. What happens there does not stay there. It is not Las Vegas. I promise that information does move along. We also have PRAB Advisory Board. So actually, like Jennifer and I had talked about, the bathrooms kind of smell. Let PRAB know. That is what they're there for. They are the extension into community. And we also meet with PRAB regularly. We have 2 appointees, one by the mayor and one by City Councilwoman Sandoval. So we also hear from them and exchange information on a regular basis, as well as it going up to the Executive Director of Parks and Rec. CAG, Commanders Advisory Group. The officers did a lovely job presenting about this. If you'd like to attend virtually, just email Technician Campbell. They also have an in-person option. Ways to report crime. I did not remember, or I did not know that you can text 911. So that is a new feature to me, but you can text and call. There's a non-emergency line. You can submit anonymously, walk into a station, or go online to file. There's lots of ways to do it. Contacts for DPD, Denver Police Department. I've got the commander's email address and phone number. So you have a direct line to him as well as Lieutenant Mallow. And they're always happy to work with community. We also have contact information for your community resource officers who regularly do attend this meeting. And that's Technician Campbell and Officer Bowman. I also have contacts for the homeless outreach team. And then I have contacts for the street engagement team. So email address, phone number. And if you're unfamiliar with what they do, you can check out their website or watch a presentation that they actually gave to committee where they kind of fill in what gaps they tend to that DPD does not attend to. And then, of course, our general Northwest Denver contacts, park ranger, non-emergency line, how to get a permit, how to watch city council, 311, you can call, text, or file online. And then sidewalk fee concerns. I know some of you may have already received your sidewalk bill that was added to your wastewater bill. So if you have any questions or concerns, you can email sidewalks@denvergov.org. You can always email us and we will get you connected to the right place as well. Ways to connect with us. We have our website, phone number, newsletter, YouTube, website, Facebook, Instagram, and then of course, signing up for our office hours. If you are not subscribed to our newsletter, please do so. A lot of the information that I'm telling you is in that newsletter and more, because some events for March have already happened. If you sign up for the newsletter, you'll know about them before I even come here. So please sign up for that. And then office staff, we have Gina, Melissa, and myself, of course, Councilwoman Sandoval. And are there any questions? I'm trying to jam through it, you guys.
You had a couple slides about safety, and one was traffic, and the other is something else associated with the park. And I'm just wondering, is this council, by the way, we're new here. My wife and I are here just a couple of years, so this is our first time here. So would the council take into consideration a recommendation to Brand X, or how would you handle a suggestion from the council, for example, about park safety? For example, when it starts to get warm here and you're walking the lake, you're taking a risk. There's an accident waiting to happen all the way around that lake because of little kids on scooters going 60 miles an hour, and that should not occur ever, and more than that. And the second one is Tennyson and 26, where you have this crossing with no lights, no buttons to push to stop the traffic, and somebody's going to get killed one of these days, and it's inexcusable for that to happen.
All right, so for the park, there are a few avenues. One is 311. So are you familiar with 311 at all?
I can tell them about it later.
Okay, well, for those who don't know.
Here's the problem. I've had too many bullets for earlier time in my life, and my hearing is going south. So this is pretty difficult to hear here. So
I'm an interpreter.
Okay, sounds great. So 311 is a resource that the city uses. When you call in about scooters or Tennyson and 26, a case gets created in 311 and it gets routed to every appropriate city agency. So that's where it gets routed to. If you do not see results or you don't hear anything, it does take some time, in about 6 to 8 weeks, you can always email us and give us that case number. We will connect you with our contact in that agency to see if we can get some better, more specific answers. So we do have a partnership with those agencies, but they do report to the mayor. They don't report to us. They're just lovely and kind and work with us very well. And you can also go, in addition to 311, to those advisory boards and let them know. That's an extra resource that you have. And it's totally remote. So you don't have to go in person if you don't want to, although I know sometimes that is the preferred option. But yes, we are happy to help. 311 is our first stop on that express stuff.
Thank you.
Tom, did you have a question?
Yeah, they had something in the paper that I didn't have a chance to clip, but the Dottie's said that you have to have your stuff out by 8 in the morning. They're starting picking up at 7 now. So take it out the night before.
That noise ordinance got approved. It did change the times that trash could be picked up, which means that you can get it picked up earlier. So yeah, put it out the night before if you are a late, late at night sleeper like I am and not quite an early bird. Does anyone have any other questions? All right, well, you know where to find me. Also, District 1 at
Deb, I have a
denvergov.org.
question if she'll take one.
Yep.
Deb.
Hi, Jennifer, I'm here. I can answer your question.
Oh, okay. What the gentleman was talking about, the scooters. I would hate to be the one to rain on these little babies parades, but they are little and wee. You'd think they'd have to be 16 years old to get on those scooters, but they rip around, and he said, like he says, they're growing fast. I'm so afraid they're gonna get killed. What is the law or rule on that?
So I forgot the specific age you must be to use a scooter. I know that there is a minimum age. However, just like anything, if they have access to their parents' account, it's hard to verify how old the person is using that scooter every single time if the account is registered to somebody else. So just like you can use someone else's Netflix to log in somewhere, they have access through their parents a lot of time. Park rangers are tasked with that enforcement. We don't have tons, but we do have that park ranger slide that you can email, and 311, whenever you see it, please report it. And then they can try and get a park ranger over there as soon as possible.
It's
but
not
I
the
do know that
parks.
is
They go flying down the streets like fast in traffic. So I just figure their parents must know about it, but it would be so tragic if their parents had to deal with their death,
Yeah.
I used to run North American Public Affairs for Lime. And I'm still friends with the people who work there, and they're one of the biggest scooter people, but I'm happy to reach out to them and see what their guidance is in terms of using it, because this has always been a problem with people double riding, and this is the number of times I've had to issue statements about people going to the hospital is slightly ridiculous.
Yeah, if you could just let me know. I mean, I hate to ruin their fun, and they're really good on those scooters, but I think some little child is going to die that way.
What I understand is, aren't those classified as a motorized vehicle? No.
I know, it seems like they should be 16 years old and have to have a driver's license. I mean, if these kids have so much fun, and then you can rationalize it. It's like, well, they're not walking. Nobody can grab them because nobody's ever going to catch them on these scooters. They're going so fast. But
I think that kind of becomes a parent issue, because we can report them all we want, but if they, run into their house, we can't enforce that so well.
Digital wallets now. And so you're able to connect a credit card to any of these accounts. So kids, if they have their parents' credit card, they can go on, and if they can't verify from the user interface side, from the company side, they can't verify who it is if they have the credit card information. All they have to do is be able to know that it's on your phone, and that's how it's encrypted. And so they're able to use it without people knowing this. So it's, as long as it's somebody who's over 16 who has the credit card or debit card that's able to, access the account, that's how they're getting onto it and able to use it. It's not, it's no different from kids using their parents' Uber accounts in order to get rides. And so while they're not supposed to, and I often holler at them that they're not supposed to be riding because it is illegal and the liability, then it's a huge liability issue. And they're not street legal because of the maximum speed that they don't go above. That's why they're only allowed and they're not supposed to be. And there's all these rules around where they're not supposed to be, but they can't geolocate them so that they can't go on sidewalks. And so it doesn't, like, you can geolocate them so they can't park places, but not so that they like just shut down.
And I know that scooters got presented to council, to committee a couple of weeks ago. So I am happy to send you that link. If you send me an email, I can send you the link to the committee presentation about scooters that happened not so long ago.
Thank you so much. We could talk on and on about scooters, though. It is a free for all. We should have a meeting on that alone. Sit around and bitch. And so Tom has some updates, and then I think we're done. And Kurt, thanks again. We'll see you at the District 1. No, I think it's the 3rd. Yeah. See you later. Ready, Tom?
Can you give a little information about the residential parking for New Stadium? It's a little summary that they've got an advisory committee now to adjust.
Tom, the speaker.
Yeah. Sorry.
Linda.
Oh, okay. Well, Martha Eubanks, one of our members attended one of these meetings that they had. For quite a while, we've had these, they used to call them A stickers that you could put on your car so you could park if you live close to the stadium so that, you know, you didn't get towed away or something, and this type of thing. Then just lately, they started charging for these parking permits, and that didn't go over too well with some people. And so they are forming a group that is meeting to discuss possible changes in to address some of the issues with these parking permits. And Martha said if anybody was interested in attending some of these meetings, to let her know, because she said she would welcome having some other representatives from the group there. But they're mainly talking about the fact that now that we have so many of these big apartment buildings and so many more people, that it used to be that like for each residence, you could get 2 permits to park your car. But when you have a whole bunch of people living in a building, that creates a problem. And then also talking about drunk people near Jefferson Park ignoring the parking signage, and increased congestion from the bike lanes and the traffic on 23rd. And there are a whole bunch of issues that they were dealing with that. So if anybody is interested in attending the next meeting, let us know. Okay.
Yeah, specifically part of the problem is close to Federal. A lot of the new buildings have 1 parking space off the street per unit. And many of those people are husband and wife with 2 cars. And so they park one on the street. And then when the stadium has a football game, they're ticketed and towed unless they can move their car way out of the area. And the city's kind of created some of the problem by allowing these units to be built with only one off-street parking. Well, anyway, it is a big issue. We live at 21st and Newton, and that is as far west as the parking permits are issued. But I mean, before the parking, they park in front of our house and walk to the stadium. So it was a big mess, especially for the people who lived like 2 blocks off of Federal. That's all I have.
Okay, Keith, are you still there? Oh, he must have just left. Shoot. Okay. We do have a save the date, a film called Join or Die. It's about sending organizations like there's local RNOs and things like that. It's actually a really good movie. It's actually on, you can find it on Amazon now, but it's at the Historic Holiday Theater, June 12th. And we're co-hosting along with a lot of other folks, local RNOs and businesses, and it should be a really great event. And Operation Egg Hunt is at Paco Sanchez Park, Saturday, April 19th.
Which is the day before Easter.
And
also an update on the Federal Boulevard Bus Rapid Transit. They had scheduled a town hall meeting for March 18th at 6. But this has been rescheduled at a later date to be determined. Part of the issue is that they are looking for funding from the Federal Transportation Administration, and DOJ wants to cut it all. So until they know what's happening, they will do that. But also the Department of cutting back, DOJ, government efficiency. But the Department of Government Efficiency has hit our neighborhood. They cut off funding to Girls Inc., which is a nonprofit on Colfax for empowerment of young girls. And they cut off $75,000 in their funding. Which, No, that was another total different thing. Yeah, but because it was girl centric, that was considered a no-no. But Channel 9 went on with their Wednesday night thing and talked about it, and local people donated over 75,000 to make it up. So here's to you in DC.
And sorry, so we're going to cut you. Well, yes, come on up, Cecilia.
Hi, people online. I'm Cecilia Espinoza. I'm your House District 4 representative at the State House. We're in the middle of our session and things have been very busy, but so I don't have a lot of time during the day or during committees to talk, but Senator Gonzalez and I will be hosting a town hall this Saturday from 10 until 12 at North High School. So if anybody wants to have a good chance to get Senator Gonzalez in my ear, we'd love to see you. We want to hear from the community and really want to let you know what's going on in the Capitol as well. There's been a lot happening. You know, we have a big budget to fill, and that doesn't even count what's going to happen with the federal budget cutbacks. And our session will probably be over before we see all of that coming to fruition. But we're working really hard to make sure that we can have the least amount of damage to the least number of people as we try to balance our budget for this year and look towards the future in terms of some of those cuts so that we can restore things that we need to in the future as well. But just wanted to let you know and introduce myself, and thank you for being here. 10 till 12.
Have a good night, everyone, and thank you for joining us. Yeah. Right back at you.